Welcome to the lesson of the week for thisisclassicalguitar.com, and today we're looking at right hand preparation or planting. So right hand planting for the classical guitar. So sometimes this is called preparation, sometimes it's called planting, sometimes it's even just called like reflex development. Lots of different names for it, but in general I would call it planting. Now, before we go over some exercises and take the camera and get really close into my right hand, I just want to talk about what planting is and then why it's important. So what is planting in the right hand? Well, planting in the right hand is when you put your finger on a string before it has to play. So let me get up close here. So if I play a note, and then prepare another finger on a string, that's called preparing the note. You can even do it with one finger on a single string. If your finger's on the string before you play, you've planted your finger there. Now, why is this important? Why would we do these things? There's four main reasons that I would say that we use right hand planting. The first reason is accuracy. If you're training your finger to be on the correct string before it has to play, you're probably going to play the right string. I mean, it's really hard to be inaccurate. If your thumb is on the correct string before it has to play, you're going to play the correct string. So it's a really, really great kind of a way to train accuracy in the right hand fingers. The next reason why it's important is reflex and speed preparation. So when you want to play fast, you need your fingers in the right place before they have to play. It doesn't make sense to just like say, oh, I have to move my fingers fast. No, they have to be in the correct place before they have to play in order to play quickly, right? They can't be lagging behind the movements. So by training your fingers to be in the right place at the right time, you're actually training your right hand to be faster at what it does. And accuracy and speed kind of go hand in hand in this particular situation. The third reason why we might do this is for our musical reasons, articulation. If you pre-prepare on a string, you can get a staccato sound as opposed to not preparing and getting a legato sound. Back to preparing. So it's actually not just the thing for your technique, but it's also something that you can use for your musical voice, so to speak, the articulation. The fourth reason that I'll say is for security. If let's say your hand is shaking in a performance, well, what's a great way to stabilize your hand if it's shaking? To put it on a string. If it's on the string, your hand can shake all at once. It'll still be on that string and you'll play the correct note. That's kind of the same thing as the accuracy comment, but really like this is an important consideration for people who have like a nervous right hand. Preparing your fingers on the strings will help with that nervousness and offer a lot of security. Even if you're not nervous, it just offers some real security in the right hand and some confidence that yes, I'm on the right string. And you can develop it into a sensation in the right hand that becomes stronger over time. Now, there's one more reason I should say. So that's four reasons: accuracy, speed and reflex development, articulation, and security. There's actually one more thing I should say is that it's a great way to practice. A lot of people will go home and they'll say like, what should I be doing when I practice my arpeggios? Should I just be like playing arpeggios endlessly for no reason? No, this is a way that you can practice your arpeggios. So it's an excellent way to practice. And we all need these things. We need ways to practice our music so that we become more confident that we are moving in the right direction, that we're actually improving our music. So finding ways to practice is very important. So let's go into the next section of the video where we actually do some exercises in planting. We'll start with single string staccato or single string exercises with planting, and then we'll do arpeggios. And in the arpeggios, we'll do full plants and sequential plants, which is like two very common ways that you might play arpeggios or practice arpeggios. So let's take the camera and get close to the right hand. Okay, so now that we know why we might do preparation in the right hand or planting in the right hand, now let's take a look at some different ways that we might do this. And we'll just look at some open string exercises to give you an introduction. So we're going to start with single string exercises, and then we'll move into arpeggios and look at full plants versus sequential plants. So on a single string, it's pretty simple. If we play the first string, we'll play I-M alternation. So you can see, I play the I finger, and then I plant the M finger. But pretty quickly, so that it actually creates a kind of like a staccato sound, right? As opposed to a legato sound with no preparation. So when you don't pre-plant, your finger just goes right through the string, letting it ring as long as possible between each stroke. But when you pre-plant, you're stopping the sound. So again, it's the same thing that we talked about before. If your finger's there before you have to play, you'll definitely hit the right string, and it's really great development for speed and a great way to just practice the right hand technique. You can do this with other fingers as well. M-A. I love single string ones because you can actually hear it in staccato, right? You can actually hear if you're doing a good planting or not. And I'd recommend that when you do it, contrast it with legato practice with no preparation, just to kind of hear the contrast between the two. You might even want to practice on a single string involving your thumb as well. So let's start with the thumb and the I finger on the third string. Contrasted with no preparation. With preparation. You could even practice an arpeggio pattern or a tremolo pattern, such as the thumb plays in the A plants, A plays in the middle finger or the M plants, M plays in the I finger plants, and then I plays in the thumb plants. As opposed to training yourself to do legato. That stuff's a little bit hard on a single string, but it's really good practice for accuracy. Let's move into the more popular area where planting is used the most, which is arpeggios. And there's two types of plants that we generally use when we practice arpeggios. One plant is called the full plant, where we plant all the fingers down and then play. And then there's sequential planting. Sequential planting, you only plant one finger at a time, letting all the other notes ring out while just the preparation note is planted. So let's go through both of those different patterns. So a full plant is when all the fingers are on the string. So let's just do this on the top four strings with the thumb on the fourth, I on the third, M on the second, and A on the first. So first thing we'll do is we'll just play it so you can hear it with no preparation. And then a full plant is when all the fingers touch the strings, and then one at a time you'll play. Plant all of them. Now, if you plant all the fingers in this way, obviously there's going to be a musical gap. It's going to sound like there's a little hiccup every rotation. But remember, one of the reasons we're doing this is for practice. So you might want to just practice the full plant like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, plant. 1, 2, 3, 4, plant. As if there's 5 beats per bar. On the 5th beat, you plant. Now, we could break this up, though, to make it slightly more musical. We could plant the thumb and then plant the top 3 fingers. That way there would always be sound ringing out. So we'll play the thumb, and I'm going to plant all 3 fingers after playing the thumb. And then as soon as the A finger's done, you plant the thumb. And then you play the thumb and plant the fingers. Sorry. So that's kind of like a mixed full plant. That is a little bit more appropriate for performance because at least some notes are ringing out. But both of those, they're a little bit, they mute the strings quite a bit. So if you want really smooth legato arpeggios, they're not very useful for performance. Now remember, we're using these for development. But one of the other reasons you can use this stuff is for security, right? If you're nervous when you're performing, keeping fingers on the strings can be a very secure way of playing. But let's talk about one that can be musical and develop your technique in a very, very good way, which develops all the things we talked about, which is called sequential planting. Sequential planting, only one finger prepares at a time. So the thumb plays and the I finger prepares. The I plays and the M prepares. The M plays and the A prepares. The A plays and the thumb prepares. And then we start it all over again. How each finger is preparing right after the previous one. This is a really great one because for the most part, the notes are all ringing out. It sounds very legato the whole time. So it's actually applicable in performance. And as you develop this, it'll actually just become a sensation in the right hand. So you won't have to think about each finger. It'll just be something you can feel, even at faster speeds. Like right now, I can still feel it. Now if I try to go really legato though, then I'll feel it less. So it ends up being a sensation in the right hand that you can develop. And you're not going to get it in one day. So a lot of students will think about this for once and then they'll think, oh yeah, I understand, and then they'll move on. But really, this is something that has to be developed over years. It's a very important concept. So today we went over planting on single strings and on arpeggios. Sequential planting is when just one finger at a time prepares. Full planting is when all the fingers prepare, or a portion of the fingers prepare at a time. And all of those different ways of practicing are really great ways to practice and develop your technique. Not necessarily to perform your music, but to develop your technique. And if you're looking for ways to improve, you know that you can't just play music all the time. You have to practice things that develop your technique. So that's one of the great reasons to do planting. Thanks. Next week we're going to go over left hand preparation. So preparing the left hand notes before they play. So tune in then and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks.